the incompetence that you have to have as a prime minister to name such terrible ministers would be laughable if it weren't so terrifying.
Defend, deflect, protect. That is the Liberal way. CBC took absolutely no time off to start pouncing like a pack of rabid dogs. They're funded by your tax dollars, though, so it does beg the question. They exist solely to shield the Liberals and to smear the opposition. Why are Canadians forced to bankroll what is by definition propaganda? I'm Jasmine Lane. Subscribe, like, follow, comment your thoughts down below. This is a juicy one, and be sure to share this video as well so that we can help open the eyes of everybody else who needs it. Doug Ford has really put the cherry on top of his unhinged rants, and he is really starting to sound like not a conservative, but another word that starts with C. I think it's communism. Yeah, that's the word. Communist, that's the word I'm thinking of. But at least Pierre Poilievre, well, he's the only one making actual sense while the rest of them just embarrass themselves. So strap in, folks, because today is going to be a pretty big mic drop.
Canada can't figure out how to get like a house under $1 million. I don't give a fuck what Canada says. They don't know what they're doing.
They're doing better than us in the economics department right now.
That's legitimately not true. They haven't had a growth in productivity in 4 years. That is unheard of in Western civilization. That is beyond factually incorrect. Economically, they're horrible. Economically, the median housing price in Canada is 4 times ours.
Their GDP has a growth for the last quarter. Our growth is going to be a reduction.
Well, let's see. We haven't had those numbers. Their housing prices are 4 times what ours are. They have a population of 40 million, but they had, wasn't it like immigration of 400,000 or something? And it pushes everyone's cost of living substantially higher, even economically.
If they have an immigration of 400,000, then they've got to have spaces for them to go.
Oh, guys, so that's how that works.
Do you want to know why Canada has shown some growth that looks promising when it comes to GDP? It's because of mass immigration, very historically used, by the way, by governments to mask the actual economic turmoil and make it appear as though there's growth happening in your country when in reality there is not. It is a very temporary illusion, one of which we are feeling the consequences of right now. So sure, yes, your GDP can look positive on the surface because overall output rises when you add more people. Duh. But per capita GDP, the measure that actually shows whether Canadians are getting richer and your country is doing good, has been shrinking for years. And this is confirmed by StatsCan data from 2019 all the way until recent reports in 2025. Just going to throw that out there. In fact, the OECD ranks Canada near the bottom, second last of advanced economies for per capita GDP growth. The reality, Canada's output per worker, their productivity numbers are collapsing. Investment is fleeing. The housing supply is stretched to the absolute limit. So, of course, naturally, they do what governments have done in the past. They rely on raw population growth to pump GDP totals.
You mentioned so many failures of this government. When can we expect another election?
All the easy questions. Listen, we had an election in April the 28th. It was a very close one. And what people are seeing is that Mark Carney, while he made grand promises of change, he's even worse than Justin Trudeau. Under his leadership, our deficit has grown, unemployment is rising, $60 billion of net investment has fled our country. The U.S. tariffs have doubled on Canada, and Carney is now losing a trade war with China. He is clearly failing to live up to the massive promises that he made. And while he gets gushing media coverage for meetings and photo ops and grand announcements that amount to nothing, Mark Carney is one walking, talking, broken promise. And our job in the fall session will be, one, to hold him accountable for the failures that are costing you more, endangering your family and weakening our country. But two, we're not just going to oppose out of control liberal crime, inflation, immigration, housing costs. We are going to propose real solutions that will mean stronger take-home pay, safer streets, secure borders, and a self-reliant Canada. When the election will happen is unknown at this point. But what we do know is that when Canadians do one day go to the polls, they will be choosing between more liberal cost, crime, and chaos, or Conservatives who will give you stronger pay, affordable life, and safe streets. Thank you. And he put in charge of crime his two most incompetent ministers. First, he's got Sean Fraser as the Justice Minister. This is the immigration minister who caused the immigration crisis, and the housing minister who caused the housing crisis. And now because of those failures, he's in charge of law and order. And then he's got a public safety minister who doesn't even know what a gun license is. So how can he fight gun crime? The incompetence that you have to have as a prime minister to name such terrible ministers would be laughable if it weren't so terrifying, because the people behind me today are paying the price for this insanity.
Isn't it just baffling to you how in Canada, telling the truth, holding the government accountable, and being honest about your situation is negative and it's bad, and oh, you're an attack dog, you need to change, you need to soften, because what you're telling, it may be true, and we'll never argue on that because facts are facts, but oh, your tone is just a little bad. Why don't we just grow up, Canada? That would be really cool. Can we please just grow up and deal with the issues?
Other than the wonderful viewership of this show, there aren't a hell of a lot of people that are still paying attention to politics. So he can test drive messages as well at this moment to see where they resonate. The more particular audience that's important for him is still his own party membership who just saw him get reelected. So they want to know he's true to them first, because all us Ottawa elites are saying you got to change your message, and that's wrong.
Because as I've said in past videos, our country will never heal until our leaders and our media are honest with us. You will never recover from something that you refuse to be honest about.
But what do you expect when you bring in over 2 million people? And I'm all pro-immigration, but in saying that, we got to slow down now, because the foundation of our healthcare system, our education, our infrastructure, everything we do is one thing. That's our economy. And we just need to make sure that we can keep up. We're building the schools, building the hospitals, we're building infrastructure, but we're the fastest growing region in North America. So let's just get caught up, get our housing, and then we can bring more people in.
We're building the hospitals. Are we? That's interesting. Well, this report came out. A family has sued Oakville Hospital after their son passed away while waiting 8 hours in the emergency room. A 2024 Ontario Hospital Association report showed that Ontario has just 2.28 beds per 1,000 people, and it's actually the second lowest in Canada, and it is near the bottom in OECD countries. Sweden does have fewer than Ontario does. But let's not just focus on Ontario as an example, because the outlook for the rest of the country isn't substantially any better either. There's actually an 84% gap against the OECD median, which is 4.1 beds per 1,000 people. That is ruled to be good in an advanced country. Canada's fallen real short there. The rest of the country has an average of 2.59 beds per 1,000 people. Also, average wait times is about 19 hours. Yeah, take that in for a second. And 25% of patients, roughly, are the ones who see a doctor in an emergency room within the 8-hour target. And the Ford government has claimed that they've added about 3,000 new hospital beds since the pandemic era. And they also promised another 3,000 by 2032. But the reality, Ontario hospitals themselves have only reported an additional 2,161 beds added since 2019. But hey, let's say that Doug Ford makes good on all of those promises, that, in general, the entire country makes good on all of those promises. Well, it still isn't enough, though. So I'll use Ontario as an example because I have the numbers in front of me. But if Ford were to deliver the extra 3,000 beds by 2032, that is a 15.7% increase over 13 years, or 1.1% per year. The population growth alone is running at 1.94% per year, which is outpacing bed growth substantially. Ontario's population actually grew by 12.3% from 2018 to 2024. So just to keep up, hospitals would actually need 12.3% more capacity since Doug Ford was elected. And they didn't get it, did they? But you know what did get a lot of extra funding, a lot of extra building, a lot of help? The EV sector.
Of course, it's a pleasure to be here with Captain Canada, our Premier, Premier Ford, who I think has done an outstanding job of standing up to the American bully, I would say, for sure. I enjoy, Premier, watching you on CNN and Fox and all the various media outlets, and we're always cheering and laughing and having fun, so keep up the good work on that.
Imagine that. A conservative premier on American television trashing Donald Trump. Nothing says, let's tank our economy and deflect from my failures, like mocking the one man who has already slapped tariffs on Canada and could double them overnight. Yep, that's probably the fastest way to 100% tariffs, but round of applause, everybody. You know what the kicker is, though, is Ontario needs investment and Canada needs trade. Instead, we have got premiers using the U.S. media like CNN to score cheap applause at home from their indoctrinated population while risking our largest trade relationship. That's not leadership, my friends. That is a reckless ego. And your parents should have taught you better, Mr. Ford.
Hi, Premier Jessica from the Trillium. Project Ontario, the group of advocates who are trying to steer the PC government back towards a more conservative direction, is holding a policy convention next month. They tell us you've regularly accused municipalities of slowing down new housing construction, but failed to use the power you have to actually lower development charges, a driver of housing costs. So one organizer says he thinks you're afraid to take on the fight with municipalities to lower development charges. Is that true?
Who's this group?
Project Ontario, they'd like you to be more conservative.
Some right-wing radical group that wants to go after me? Probably. But anyways, I don't even know who these guys are, to be honest with you. So in saying that, we have supported the municipality.
Maybe I'm just being a little too hard on him and our federal leaders when it comes to the state of funding announced, as well as our healthcare system that is a freaking mess. But you know, even housing prices, yeah, we actually aren't building homes. Canada's housing prices have skyrocketed far beyond the United States, as well as the OECD average and Europe. So that's great. In fact, they've nearly doubled since 2007, but yet the OECD average is closer to 30 to 40%. So, yeah, that really does prove that if Ford's government were building housing, and that was true, that prices would not have exploded so far out of line with the rest of its peers. I came across this from Table Salt. I'm not 100% sure where exactly it is sourced from due to the screenshot, but Table Salt writes that 27 out of 50 Ontario cities failed to meet the housing targets necessary for federal funding, which again directly contradicts Doug Ford's spin that Ontario is building the housing, because the numbers are showing that most municipalities are missing targets, completions are lagging, and the crisis is obviously deepening.
Michelle Rempel's bill, she's announcing she's bringing in a bill saying that immigration status should not be used by judges to reduce the sentences of convicted criminals. You know, the other day we had a judge who said, well, this individual is a non-Canadian, and if they get a high conviction, they'll be deported from the country. Well, that's what we want. If someone commits a crime when they're here as a visitor, we want them to do a sentence in prison and then get the hell out of Canada. We don't want to keep criminals in our streets. We don't want to invite criminals to our country. Every single criminal who visits our country and is a non-Canadian should be quickly deported from our country.
However, as a warning to other countries, and also as a warning to the people residing in this one, telling the truth is now bad.
Like, is it just that he can't help himself, or is this a strategy that we're seeing today?
I'm probably not the only Liberal whose stomach kind of lurched when we start hearing those sorts of slogans and attacks and repetitive, more of the same. Poilievre, I think he can't help himself.
I'm sure I'm not the only Liberal whose stomach kind of lurched when Poilievre started telling the truth more and more. Oh, wow. The way that he just keeps repeating the truth. Oh, my tummy.
I think it is not good strategy to go to what didn't work during the election to beat on the same horse. I think if there's ever a time to be collaborative and to work together in a bipartisan way would be at the beginning of a mandate when there's a national crisis. He can build a lot of goodwill this way. I don't think the critiques of Carney ring as true as maybe the critiques of Trudeau did. And so I think he hurts his own credibility when he makes such, when his statements come down, they're not authentic.
Sherelle, what did you think when you saw his appearance today and his speech and then how he answered questions?
Has CBC ever taken one of Mark Carney's speeches and asked questions like that about it with a completely conservative panel? I don't think I've ever felt more repulsed by and disgusted by a CBC broadcast such as this one. It was like 17 minutes long of just nothing but pure filth, echo chamber, just sick. It was so sick to see them have this big panel taking apart every little piece of what Pierre Poilievre said. They really don't skip a beat, ever. And you know what? They never say that what he is saying is wrong either. What they say is, well, I think a lot of liberals would feel the same way as me, right, guys? Oh, well, I just don't think that that's a very good approach. It's never that what he's saying is false, because it's not. But they want to make you feel something to keep them in power because emotions don't think. And they play on that and they abuse the hell out of that. And it is sickening to me.
I mean, I think like everybody thought that, okay, that shift in tone that he'd been talking about, or we were wondering if it was going to be coming, it's not really there. Because yes, after the election in April and after, just on Monday night, he was talking about being more collaborative. And even today as well, he was saying, to give him, some credit, he said again that we're not just going to be opposing. He said we're going to propose solutions, which is something that people have been asking for. They say, we don't want to just hear negativity. We want to hear you come up with something.
We want to hear you come up with something. Like what? Like removing the carbon tax? Maybe like bail reform, like maybe repealing Bill C-69 and all of the other legislation that's hurting us, or maybe like cutting back bureaucracy. Weird. It's almost as though these people talk a lot about something they have never actually looked into because they're stuck in their echo chamber. People just really want them to stop being so negative. Even though I've never once listened to a freaking press conference they've ever given. I didn't even read their party platform. I have no idea who they are, what they're running for. I just know that I don't like them, and that's why I'm paid to be on this show, and that's what I'm going to issue. You want to talk about proposing ideas. No more negativity. I'm just wondering, what kind of an idea is this? Mark Carney posted 4 hours ago, AI is the key to unlocking productivity, higher jobs, and more prosperity. I met with the team at Mila AI Institute yesterday to discuss how Canada can be at the forefront of emerging technology that will make Canada's economy stronger and more competitive. Well, that's not a plan. That's not a proposal. Either it's a meeting. Again, let's just keep scrolling a little bit here. Canada's new government will soon launch the Major Projects Office to streamline the approval of highways, ports, energy corridors, and other nation-building infrastructure. It's time to build big, build bold, and build now. Well, that also just sounds like you're just throwing out some absolute nonsense, but that's completely unsubstantiated because you do still indeed have the exact same regulations that are hindering the growth in the first place. You still have the same high taxes that are hindering the growth in the first place. So that's not very much of a plan. You never hear CBC talking about that, though, do they? It's super weird to me how things like, hey, we need to increase our economy, Mark Carney should be doing something, he's not, are considered negative. Oh, it's just so negative. He needs to change his tone. Yet you can have Anita Anand and Mark Carney and every Liberal cabinet minister repeat that, in an increasingly divided world, it's more important than ever that Canada is working with allies to secure the Arctic. Increasingly divided world, a hinge moment. divided, dangerous. And as I wrote back to Anita Anand, imagine constantly vilifying people who didn't vote for your party in a democratic nation, ignoring them and calling them names, using the media you fund to constantly stir up nonsense and turn people against each other over made up bullshit and exaggerations that don't actually matter and nobody really cares about, using this as a way to distract them from the fact that they are struggling and getting poorer, that you are abusing your authority, wasting their money and making their life harder, flooding the country with mass immigration to temporarily hide the damage you've caused, and then having the audacity to say, in an increasingly divided world. And while CBC continues to run cover for failure, because that's how they get paid, I'm going to drop one of the biggest fact checks of all time after we painfully get through this one.
The contract dispute with Air Canada, we know that the Conservatives had this legislation they had been pushing again recently that would have, they say, taken care of unpaid work. But it's also come up, and I'm wondering if this could be a new idea from the Conservatives, even though they've not done it in the past when they were in government.
When they were in government a decade ago. When the problem wasn't nearly as bad as it is today. And then when it got bad, they proposed something in order to fix it. But it's their fault because 10 plus years ago, they didn't put it in law. If only they had the same types of criticism for their own government. Consistency would be very nice, wouldn't it?
Carney is an efficient pragmatist. He will see a good idea, and if it's sort of ideologically still consistent with where a liberal platform, he will take it and will run with it. If it's good for the country, I think he will adopt measures. He's trying to deliver, and I think he has a vision. So maybe that it's those reforms. I think he's focused on the Canadian domestic economy, and so if the calculation of a greater competition would enhance Canadian industry or protect Canadians in any way, I think he'd need to see some hard statistics on that.
I'm sorry. What? Holy. I'm going to rip out my hair.
I think that Carney has only had sort of 4 months since the election to enact a pretty ambitious agenda.
Guys, Carney's only had 4 months, and the Liberal government as a whole has only had 10 years. A number of them of which Mark Carney was advising them. The reality here, though, is that 4 months is actually a pretty good benchmark in politics. And I'll give some examples. Donald Trump's first 100 days, he rolled back regulations, signed executive orders on pipelines. He cut corporate tax planning rules. He drove investment into his country. He pulled out of the TPP as an example. And, let's not just focus on conservative leaning people. But what about Pierre Trudeau? Well, back in 1968, his first 100 days, he introduced bilingualism. He created the Petro-Canada Plan groundwork. Governments always move big things early while their mandate is fresh. So excuses after 4 months is a signal of paralysis. Not, we need to be patient. No. This is the time when you do big things and you prove everybody who voted for you right, and you leave your opponent in the dust.
Well, maybe not perfect on all fronts, has made some significant moves. We've had multiple FMMs, First Minister meetings. He's engaged in Europe. He's looking for new allies. He's having to navigate Trump, that first White House meeting. He landed that well. So I think we need to give Prime Minister Carney more time to see the fruits of his vision.
He's engaged in Europe. He's looking for new allies and having meetings. Canada has been diversifying trade for decades with endless missions to Europe and Asia. The CETA deal in Europe that was signed back in 2016, as an example, was still incredibly underwhelming for the country. European imports did surge. Canadian exports barely moved. In Asia, Canada was booted out of Indo-Pacific trade talks, and China froze relations after years of liberal mismanagement. And now they're taking advantage of us due to weakness shown amidst these tariffs coming from China. Under Carney so far, lots of meetings, lots of taxpayer dollars, 0 new trade agreements, 0 new market access, 0 investment inflow. And to say that he landed the Trump White House meeting well, the reality is that he showed up. There's no deal. There was no concessions from the United States, no trade framework, no tariff resolution. Instead, the White House has called Canada difficult to deal with. That's kind of the opposite of success. Oh yeah, and tariffs have actually increased. Yeah, so I don't know how successful that one is. And as much as I would love for CBC to have somebody like myself or the many others in this space who know policy very well and who talk about this stuff on a daily basis and who are indeed conservative, not because we're these right-wing radicals, but because we read and we have eyes and we can see and we know what's going on, probably because we don't religiously listen to them. That probably won't happen, but I would at the very least appreciate it if they could ask their audience and themselves the question that if 4 months in, the only evidence of leadership that your crowned supreme leader, Kim Jong-Carney, has is that he has held a meeting. He's held a few of them, actually. What do you think the next 4 years is going to look like? And you're excited about that? Why aren't more Canadians asking themselves, why am I so broke? Why have my taxes gone up? Why is it that the same position I hold today, the salary for it was comparable 25 years ago? Why? I'm Jasmine Lane. Subscribe, like, follow, and comment your thoughts down below. And as always, share this video as well. I could have done so much more talking about that CBC clip. That got me done fired up. Did it ever? I did want to let you know as well that I am actually going on vacation. I know, crazy. I'm still going to be posting shorts because I'll film stuff while I'm out, just not full videos like this. But I will be back on Tuesday, and then I'm gone again from Friday to Tuesday the next week over the long weekend there. So if you want to follow along and hear more insights on all sorts of stuff as they come up, make sure that you're following me on Instagram, X, TikTok, and of course, also on YouTube, because I will be posting some stuff here as well. And I will talk to you very, very soon. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. Hang in there. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep being kind. And remember that you don't need to insult people and use ad hominem attacks just to get your point across. In fact, it's far more successful if you don't do that and you just fact check the hell out of them instead.